Alright, testing 1, 2, 3. Alright, what is going on, everybody? Good morning on this beautiful Monday. I hope you all are having a wonderful ride to work or drive to work just as I am. Whew, but yeah, it's been a pretty successful, or it was a pretty successful weekend for me. I got all of the socials, like all the external secondary socials like Twitter, Reddit, and everything set up so you guys can go follow me on there as well. But I also have big news. Had a big addition to the family this week. I'd been looking for this for a while. On Facebook Marketplace, I found a 1978 Triumph Bonneville T140, which is a 750cc. And it is a beast. It's throw a picture up right here somewhere. But yeah, that thing is an absolute beast. When I messaged the guy, he said it started but didn't idle. So I was like, okay, pretty standard. Carb clean required, probably. So I went to go take a look at it, and really nice guy. He rides, his wife rides. It was fun talking to him. But I started looking it over, and I asked how much. He said that he wanted $3,000 for it, which is a fair price. I did my research, and they go for about $3,000 when they're in good condition. I would not have called the bike I was looking at good. I would have called it fine, like it was okay. It definitely needed some work, like the forks are probably going to have to be replaced, and of course it didn't start, it didn't run or idle, which for me kind of disqualified it as good. So I asked him, I was like, is it negotiable? And he said, yeah. I said, would you take 22? That would probably, whatever money I'm going to have to put into it, it's probably going to be about $800 to get it up to that good condition for $3,000. And he's like, no, I'll do it for 25. And then I said 23. And he said, could you do 24? And I said, I'll do it right now for 23. I'll sleep on it for a night at 24. And he agreed to it, 23. So $2,300 got me a 1978 Triumph Bonneville T140. And so I bring it home, and I start kind of wiping it down. It was pretty clean, except for one little crack with some rust under it, underneath on the gas tank at the very top by the gas cap, which is okay. I mean, it's from 1978, so whatever. But I cleaned it up a little bit, wiped some dust off of it, and I start messing around with it, and yes, so it, besides me taking 20 minutes and like 10 YouTube videos to learn how to start the thing because it's Kickstart only, and it's like a whole math equation trying to get that thing going. You have to know the secret code. I get it started, and yeah, so it starts, no idle. Try it again, starts, give it as much gas as I can, runs, let go of the gas, no idle. So I look everything over, and I noticed there definitely is some sediment in the gas lines leading from the carburetor. It's dual carbureted, by the way, so everything I did had to be done 2 times. It's carbureted. I look, there's definitely some sediment inside the fuel lines, which is indicative that the carburetor is clogged. And I'm like, okay, so that checks out for the most part. Something's not idling. But I was still hesitant because it's not that it wouldn't idle, it would instantly die. There was no attempt at idling, and even for a clogged carburetor, I would still expect some sputter. I would expect that you start it, give it gas, it revs, but then as the clog does not allow enough fuel, there still would be some getting through. I would assume it to kind of bog down a little bit, like But that's not what happened. It was instantaneous. If I let go the throttle, it would die. which meant that something was either open or closed when it came to the throttle. Every time that I gave it throttle, it was an instant response, so there was no clog. Because if it was clogged, if I gave it throttle, it would still sputter. It would still be like, meh, 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 because there's something clogging after I roll the throttle. But that wasn't the case. So I was still a little hesitant, but I still cleaned everything out. I decided to not take the carburetor apart because of the aforementioned, there's no sputter. It's either on or off. So what I end up doing is just putting the fuel lines back on, because I definitely wanted to clean those out. Spray a little bit of carb cleaner inside of the small little petcocks and stuff like that. And what I end up doing is I kind of start inspecting the throttle, because at this point I'm fairly confident that's where it's coming from. Like I said, there was no symptoms of a clogged or blocked carburetor, because like I said, I would expect kind of a intermittent throttle, but like I said, that's not what was happening. It was either on or off. So I'm like, this probably has something to do with the throttle. So I start looking it over, and I notice that the throttle cable is really, really loose. And I'm like, that's interesting. So I start it and I rev it. I rev it like no tomorrow, just to keep it going. Because like I said, if I keep constant throttle, the thing runs perfectly. So I rev it and I start tightening that throttle wire, and little did I know, it idles. So it wasn't even a clogged carburetor. Just a little loosey-goosey throttle wire that just had to be tightened. Now it is loose. It did come loose through vibrations from the motorcycle, so I'm going to have to figure out some type of fix there. I'm thinking just throwing on some type of locking nut as a quick fix, but bike runs, and I did a good bit of riding around with it yesterday. I didn't do too much filming because I don't have any of my mounts, like the forward forward camera or the 360, but I ordered 2 more of those. So I think between the Vulcan and that new Triumph, I think I'm going to kind of split time between the two, which sucks because it's a little bit of work taking those mounts off and putting them on the other bikes, but it'll be worth it for you guys. But yeah, that was my weekend. Got the new motorcycle. I've decided to go vintage, so that should be fun. I think I'm going to throw a Kriega bag on that and just take it out to Joshua Tree. If it dies, it dies. Let it have one final ride. Because, I mean, the thing had 23 or 32,000 miles right around there. I don't expect to get too much life out of it, but I'm just going to baby it and, hopefully give it a proper send-off. Ridden the way it should be. The thing is loud. Oh my gosh, I've only had like these modern bikes with no aftermarket exhaust, but Jesus, in 1978 they were not messing around. If you guys have an old vintage bike, whoa. If you guys have an old vintage bike, let me know what you have. I'd love to hear about it. They're absolutely awesome. You can definitely tell it's a tale from a different time, but what a good time it must have been if that's what they were putting out. For probably $500 is what I'd guess it probably sold for. I'd have to look that up, but good times. Good times. The thing's a blast. So I think I also wanted to talk about the motorcycles that I own. I think that's kind of an interesting little topic. I'm just going to go with these cars. Yeah, I think it's kind of an interesting topic, because I now own 4 motorcycles, which I think is kind of cool. I'm kind of collecting the infinity gauntlet of motorcycles in my garage. I took a look. I actually had to kick my Lexus out of the garage because it's taking up so much space now. Like Pokemon, gotta catch them all. Yeah. My pin lock's fogging up again. Because as everybody knows, I've explained it 10 times. I had a little too much to drink the night that I was installing my pin lock, and I completely botched it on one side. Let's get over into the carpool lane. But yeah, the bikes that I have, so I actually, the first motorcycle inside the garage is my Kawasaki Vulcan 650. It's a 2025. I bought that thing brand spanking new, because even though I had ridden dirt bikes when I was a kid and stuff, that was actually my first street motorcycle. And it's been a blast. I don't ride it nearly as much as I should, just because, this thing. But yeah, so I bought that thing. It's the bike that I pretty much taught myself to ride on the street on. It's a wonderful bike. It's a great starter bike. It's a little vanilla, which is not a bad thing. It's like a French vanilla. It's got a little touch in there. It's got plenty of power. As everybody knows, the Vulcan is actually a sports bike put onto a cruiser frame. It is the same motor as the... Actually, I don't want to say that because I don't know off the top of my head. I believe it's the same motor as the the Ninja 650 or Ninja 600, right around there. Very similar motors. But yeah, I mean, it putts around town. I took it out yesterday. It's smooth as butter, and it gets the job done. If you're looking for a quick and easy motorcycle that's not too much to break the bank, I think I paid $8,000 for it out the door. The Vulcan 650, great starter bike. It's not too much, it's not too little. You can keep it forever, which is what I'm planning on doing. Alright, we are going a little slow here. What's going on? But a genre on YouTube that I'm actually hoping to start creating or join soon is the adventure bike world. I fell in love with that genre of YouTube video and that idea because I've always been a big camper, big outdoorsman. So the idea of an adventure bike, wonderful. Seeing guys like Dork in the Road, Big Rock Moto, Itchy Boots, those adventure bike riders, I became infatuated with the idea of an adventure bike. So I started doing my research and I was like, I need to get an adventure bike. And even though I'd only been riding on the street for so long, it wasn't going to scare me away from these big boss bikes. So I started doing my research and I kind of had come to a conclusion that I was either going to get a Honda Transalp or a Tenier 700. The Tenier market was definitely more expensive on Facebook Marketplace and such, and there just weren't that many Transalps available on Facebook Marketplace. So I kind of started to get the idea of going brand new for the bike, which actually ended up working out pretty well for me, because when I went to go buy my Transalp, I had like a pros and cons list of every bike. So the pros of the Transalp is that it's a great adventure bike for about $10,000. It's a slightly more of a commuter than adventure bike, which is kind of what I was going to start using it for. It still had great ability to go off-road, but then some of the cons were it was missing a ton of the technology of the next step up. So things that you want in like a touring bike, the things that you'd want in a touring bike, cruise control, multiple different ride modes, customizable ride modes, suspension, higher ground clearance, was kind of missing from that Transalp. So I had calculated how much it was going to cost to put all that stuff on the bike, and it was going to be about $3,000 to $4,000 after buying it. So I go into the dealership, and it was the Honda sales event at that particular dealership where there's no dealer fees, and they were giving discounts on the bike. They had actually had this Africa Twin 1100 on the floor the entire time that I'd been going into that dealership for a full year. And the 2026s were about to come out because this was my second bike, a 2024 Africa Twin. The 2026s were coming out, and so I kind of asked them about it, and they were like, we want 15 out the door. And I was like, yeah, it's okay, but I really want the Transalp, but if you can do this Africa Twin for 14 out the door, I'll do it. And they did it. So I got what I consider to be a really good deal on this Africa Twin. And it's been by far and away my favorite motorcycle. I'm a huge fan of the riding position. This upright, kind of in like a school desk. It's just more comfortable to me than the cruising than of the Vulcan 650. And one of the main things that I didn't see at the time, when I was I actually wasn't even doing content creation, having all of the extra frames and like crash bars and stuff allows me to modify this bike like no tomorrow. I can hook cameras anywhere I want to it. Like I said, I have actually a triple camera setup on this bike and a double microphone setup on this bike, so you guys can see all of the angles of the bike, like this, third person, looking directly at me, like this, first person, so you can see everything that I see, and finally, like this, with the eye in the sky, the 360 camera. This bike is perfectly built for my uses for it and the filming that I do with it. Now, I said 3 cameras, but I also said double microphone. What's up with that? So I guess it's technically 5 microphones, but I use 3 of them actually, but for the most part it's 2. So I have 2 microphones that I primarily use. One is in my camera. I use a Zoom F2 field recorder with a lavalier mic that I have clipped to the inside of the helmet. This is strictly for voice. It was a long pursuit trying to figure out a good setup for the voice microphone, and I eventually came to field recorders like the F2 and stuff like that. And for me, they just work better because I was able to transport them from bike to bike extremely easily. But yeah, it picks up my voice. It's a 32-bit float recorder. What that means is it's really good at picking up every noise around it. This is good and bad. One is I tend to talk very loud and sometimes very quiet. The 32-bit float means it's able to capture all of the sound, so even if you start to peak a little bit, it still records the data, so that way in post you can go in and fix it a little bit, so that way you're not losing your audio if you accidentally do something wrong when setting it up. The cons of this is that it picked up every noise. It was terrible with wind noise, because even though the microphone is inside of the helmet, you still take a beating because that wind is still hitting you directly in the face. Here on the Africa Twin, it's not so bad because I do have the windscreen in front of me, But on bikes like the Vulcan or the new Triumph, oh, dude, that it just pelts you directly in the face, and the microphone gets every single decibel level of noise that comes into it. This mic catches it. So, oh, nice, beautiful, good job. But yeah, so the lavalier mic was great for picking up voice, but also great for picking up everything else. At lower speeds, it didn't matter too much. I was able to kind of go through post-production and filter everything out, but at higher speeds on the highway, it didn't work. And the problem is, since I do have a full-time job outside of content creation, a lot of my filming is done commuting to work. And being limited to only being able to film on the weekends inside the city wasn't exactly what I wanted. I wanted to be able to record anytime, all the time, and kind of capture everything about it. If this guy would get over just a little bit. Those are the smallest mirrors in the world. But yeah, so Zoom F2, in summary, I know I've been kind of cut off here and there. Great for recording all audio, picks up a little too much of the wind noise. You can isolate just your voice, but you lose all of the other parts about riding a motorcycle. Your engine sound. You want a little bit of wind noise and a little bit of the ground noise in the cars around you, but you don't want too much. So the Zoom F2, great for recording your voice, not great at recording everything else. It's actually so good that it's bad. I'm not too sure what this guy is doing. What in the world? But finally, for the second microphone, this was the game changer for me. Because before, what I would do is I would get my audio for my voice and I would play around with the levels so that you still hear wind noise, but you mostly hear my voice, but it kind of was a compromise. And when you compromise, nobody's happy. And I was definitely not happy with the audio. So I went out and I bought this guy. It's a Zoom H4n 24-bit recorder, field recorder. And although it's not a 32-bit, which means it's not great at recording everything around it, it had adjustable input control. So I was able to come out to my bike, start it, put the microphone right next to the exhaust, and I was able to measure the decibel level of the exhaust and tell the microphone to only capture those decibel levels. So now I have a microphone that is dedicated just to recording exhaust noise, which is exactly what I wanted, because in my perfect world, I have a mix of you guys hear my voice and the exhaust, and that's about it. That's all that you should hear. Because everything else is just annoying and extra. I don't want that. I want you to be able to hear my voice so I can explain what's happening, and I want you to be able to hear the exhaust, because that's one of the 3 core tenets of a motorcycle. Look, feel, and sound. Those are the 3 things that people buy motorcycles based off of. Does the motorcycle look cool? Does the motorcycle look cool? Does the motorcycle feel good? And does the motorcycle sound good? Any of those 3 things, some people prefer one over the other, can completely dictate if somebody buys a motorcycle or what kind they buy. If somebody really cares about the look of a motorcycle, they will not buy a big old commuter motorcycle because they're bulky. They want something sleek. They want a cruiser. They want heavy metal. The feel, the sport bike people. If that bike does not feel like butter, if it is not as fast as it can be, while being able to take turns and just like I said, as smooth as butter, they're not going to buy it. They don't want it. Some people love sound. The Harley bros. The sound of a Harley is so unique and popular Harley actually tried to patent the sound of their motorcycle so that nobody else could use it. It failed, but that's just how important the sound of a motorcycle can be. So I really needed that exhaust sound to be prevalent and present in my videos without being drowned out by wind noise. So the Zoom H4n 24-bit field recorder does exactly that. I took it, I recorded the decibel level of the exhaust of my bike, and then I had to find a placement for it, and I tried all over the sun. Alright, I tried every single location I could think of until I had a brain blast. So the first thing I tried was in a backpack. That was good, but it didn't work great. The problem with the backpack was that the recorder was loose, so anytime I shifted around too fast, you would hear the microphone kind of shuffle around. Or anytime that I had to double check the mirror like this, the backpack would all of a sudden be at my side and get hit by a gust of wind, and although it was good at shielding it, you could still kind of hear it. So it was okay, it did fine, but it's not exactly what I wanted. Also, it was about a meter away from the exhaust, so it wasn't dedicated to picking it up because the backpack's up here, exhaust's down there. It just wasn't perfect. It would work in a pinch, but I was trying to get just about perfect. The second place I tried was in my back pocket. That worked okay. It was shielded from the wind, which was good. It didn't move around a ton, which was good. But the problem is the H4n is really bulky. And it kept falling out of the back. It fell out of the back of my pocket almost every time I got in the bike. And I couldn't have that happening at high speeds because even though I got it for $100 on Facebook Marketplace, I don't want to have to keep buying $100 Facebook Marketplace items to make these videos. So I was like, that's not going to work. And also, it was like half a meter away from the exhaust, which still is not fully dedicated. Microphones are supposed to be pretty much pushed up directly against what you want to record, and that's it, especially for dedicated microphones. So I had a little bit of a brain blast. I popped off the passenger seat, and I swear it's as if it was meant to be. That H4n fits exactly into the slot underneath my seat. So I went from having sound like this to having sound like this. At like the snap of a finger, and it's exactly what I want. Isolates the voice, isolates the exhaust, and presents it to you. Yeah, that's my Africa Twin. Then I bought a little Ninja 300 from a friend because they were selling it on the cheap. It's fun. It's not as fast as I want to be, but it's a blast just to ride around town in the city. You're still faster than most cars, or at least quicker with acceleration. And it came with a Yoshimura exhaust, so it sounds great. Even though it's 300, it doesn't sound like 300. So that's kind of cool. And now I have that Triumph Bonneville T140, and I really like that thing. It's a pain in the butt. It's not comfortable to ride at all, but it's just cool. Alright, well, everybody, that was everything that I wanted to talk about today. This has been my morning ride. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. But I am looking forward to my evening ride, and tomorrow's my morning ride. Feel free to drop any topics that you want to talk about in the comments below, and I'll make sure to get to them and bring them up in the next episode. It's hard to talk for so long, so consistently, so your topics are appreciated. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. I can just get over.